Welcome to another edition of Global Conversations with Regis Tremblay, coming to you from beautiful and historic Yalta in the Crimea of the Russian Federation. Yalta is a city of poets, authors, artists, longtime residents, and tourists located between majestic mountains and the Black Sea. Welcome to another edition of Global Conversations. My guest tonight, returning for, I don't know, the fourth or fifth time, is my friend Vladimir Kozin. He is a special assistant to the Russian Presidential Administration on nuclear treaties, nuclear weapons, nuclear war. Vladimir, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Regis. With great pleasure.
There's a lot to talk about tonight. It seems like the United States of America is dialing up chaos every day with its provocations and its threats to Russia. So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. First of all, Joe Biden's cabinet appointees seem to be all from the Obama administration. They are all warmongers. They hate Russia and China. We're going to talk about that, what your impression is. And then, just this past week, the USS John McCain, an American destroyer built in Bath, Maine, sailed into territorial Russian waters near Vladivostok in the Far East. 2 days later, the United States fired 2 missiles into the Black Sea from Romania. And the United States has decided to pull out of the Open Skies Treaty. Just yesterday, I read where the United States is going to place more sanctions on Russia and the Russian space program. They will not use the Russian missile to get to space. I have to turn my light on here. I forgot to turn my light. And then finally, Vladimir, the United States says it intends to deploy more nukes to NATO countries. Get this, it's insane, including low-yield nuclear weapons. They believe that they can fight a limited nuclear war. This is total insanity. It's only going to lead to more destabilization in the region and the world and increase the number of risks. Vladimir, let's start with number one.
Okay.
What is your opinion, and do you think the opinion of the Russian people is on Joe Biden apparently being elected president and naming his new cabinet full of people who do not like Russia and are warmongers?
Yes, me personally and the great majority of my fellow countrymen think that the newly entrenched team headed by Joseph Biden is really full of anti-Russian sentiments, anti-Russian feelings, and they will do all their best to destroy Russian-American relationship in all spheres, in all domains. Some of them are fully unprofessional, like I have to point my finger to a specific lady, Jen Psaki, who was official spokesman of the US State Department during President Barack Obama's administration. We received a laughable story from her that in case of Belarus, the United States of America is going to send combat ships to the shores of Belarus or Belarusia. But it is known, see, from our childhood that Belarus is a continental state. It does not have any access to the sea. So how can Pentagon send destroyers or cruisers to the shores of the Republic of Belarus if it doesn't have any direct access to the sea? It's a hinterland state in English, right? Separated at least by one state from the sea area. In this particular case, the Baltic Sea. The Baltic Sea. So, and we are deeply worried what kind of policy Joseph Biden will conduct when he becomes, if he becomes, the jure and de facto 46th President of the United States on that day of January 20th next year. Our predicament, unfortunately, is very negative. Foreign policy of the United States will be irrational, dangerous, and provocative. There will be no sound arms control, especially in the nuclear arms control area. So that's it. Regis?
Okay. Wow. Let's talk about now what just happened this week as well. The United States sent the destroyer, USS John McCain, into Russian territorial waters near Vladivostok in the Far East, and they shot 2 missiles into the Black Sea from Romania. What's your reaction to this, Vladimir?
Well, the reaction in these 2 cases, you absolutely justifiably reminded our esteemed audience, is absolutely correct. Such incidents took place. The first one took place in the Peter the Great Gulf, very close to Vladivostok in the Russian far eastern part. So the Gulf named after Peter the Great is a territorial waterways of the former Soviet Union, because this delimitation took place in 1957 when there was a Soviet Union, and Russia inherited this kind of right to have this water area in this particular place from that time. And the American Navy is fully aware that it is absolutely undisputable Russian territorial sea, internal waterways. And the ship you mentioned, destroyer McCain, just sailed into nearly 2 kilometers into this purely domestic internal sea area of the Russian Federation. By the way, it was not the first case of such a kind. In 1988, 2 American combat vessels named Yorktown and Karen intruded into territorial waters of the former Soviet Union in the Black Sea, in the other area you are just sitting nearby. And we simply, Soviet warships simply bumped out these 2 American warships from our territorial waters. Lucky we were that nobody was killed, wounded, but the ships have been damaged. We have the same accident that took place 2 years ago in the Pacific, very close to the Russian coastal line and internal waterways, when another U.S. ship called McCampbell also wanted to move into our territorial water without any permission. There is a special term in the International Sea Law Convention, innocent passage or peaceful passage. So meaning that any combat ship of any nation can make a friendly port call and enter or sail into domestic water area of, say, the Russian Federation, but with permission. It's a peaceful, innocent passage, etc. During port calls. For example, I have met in the Soviet time an American frigate that visited Vladivostok with a friendly port call visits. It was a purely friendly port call visits, and the citizens of Vladivostok and myself, I was at the time Muscovite, when I am still now, and I'm just set my foot on this American frigate, talked to the crew, and the crew visited the city of Vladivostok and familiarized themselves with Russian culture, cuisine, songs, etc., etc. So, but nowadays, unfortunately, this period has gone. There are no friendly port calls. There are only intrusions, illegal sailing into our internal waterways. It's a mere provocation. It's a very dangerous situation. Then a combat ship, fully equipped with guided missiles, with high caliber artillery pieces, just helicopters, also gunships, are approaching very close to our coastal line. So we are very suspicious, and we regard this as unfriendly action, deliberately escalation of tension between our two countries, and that will bring us to the further deep abyss we are just rolling down day in, day out. As to another story you have mentioned, yes, correct. The U.S. Army, to our surprise, has taken a pair of long-range rocket launchers from Germany to Romania and then fired 2 missiles into the Black Sea area in the direction of the Crimean Peninsula. So it's again unfriendly gesture, and it's a kind of provocation. Look, I have written the article, very small article, published in the Forbes magazine, November 23rd, soon after the incident took place. It took place 4 days before, that is November 19th. And the author of this article, Mr. David X, has written that the United States Army, in cooperation with the U.S. Marine Corps, which shared the capability, they call this mission HIMARS, Rapid Infiltrations. HIMARS is an abbreviation of high mobility artillery rocket systems. And the author of this article said that the U.S. Army and the U.S. Marine Corps just represented the cornerstone capability of the ground combat branch's new approach to heavy firepower. So, and that's why we regard these 2 cases in the Gulf of named after Peter the Great and in the Black Sea area. I mean, firing missiles from Romania, American missiles not controlled by Romanian armed forces, as a mere provocation, unfriendly gesture, and it means that Joseph Biden has already received a very bad inheritance, very bad heritage in attitude from Washington towards Moscow in these particular 2 cases. And there could be much more. Regis?
Okay, so what has been the Russian official reaction from the Kremlin, from the military, to these 2 incursions, illegal incursions?
Yes, I mean, in terms of the intrusion of the U.S. destroyer John McCain, the Russian Foreign Ministry issued a special statement on November 27th. It says that it's outright provocation. It's reckless behavior of the United States Navy, and we launched a tough démarche to the United States through military diplomatic channels. There were private voices of the ex-Russian admirals who said that next time Russia will resort to pumping out of the intruding U.S. combat vessels from our area, and one of them also made a speculation, a predicament that we can fire at this kind of American ships if they repeat such provocations and enter our internal domestic waters. So as to firing of U.S. long-range artillery rockets or missiles from Romania in the direction of the Black Sea, in the direction of the Crimean Peninsula, we made a strong statement from the State Duma, the lower house of federal parliament in the Russian Federation, also denouncing this kind of act, because the system in question has maximum firing range 300 kilometers. It can hit some areas in the Russian Federation, for example, if it moves from Romania to Ukraine, very close to our territory. And I have to remind the recent overflight of heavy American B-52H bombers in the vicinity of the Azov Sea, very close to the Russian territory, several dozens kilometers from us. So this is not the end of the Cold War. This is a continuation of the Cold War, but with a very important addition: Cold War 2.0. So second option of the Cold War, much stronger, much tougher, and much more dangerous. Yes, yeah. Regis?
Yeah, and you know, I'm living in Yalta, in the Crimea of the Russian Federation, yeah. And it's really surprising. Some of my friends were not even aware that those missiles were fired toward the Crimea. I mean, it's really surprising to me. Anyway, in addition to everything you've just mentioned, Cold War 2.0, they've really dialed up the chaos. They've increased the pressure and the direct threats on the Russian Federation in the Far East, in the Baltics, in Ukraine, and in the Black Sea now. But they also have pulled out of the Open Skies Treaty. Can you talk about that a little bit? What was that treaty, and why is that significant?
Well, the Open Skies Treaty is not our idea. It has been suggested by the United States of America a long time ago, in 1950s, and then was reiterated in 80s. And slightly after the demise of the Soviet Union, it was formalized, became de facto and de jure international agreement involving 3 dozens of independent states, both from NATO alliance and from the former Warsaw Pact organizations, member states. This agreement gives a chance to participating states to send inspection aircraft, specially equipped, over the skies of the member states of this treaty, simply to watch and monitor military developments, military activity. And I mean, the whole territories were open on the basis of reciprocity, with only minor exclusions. For example, it is prohibited to send inspection open skies aircraft with inspection teams on board to the areas where there are civilian airstrips and civilian air traffic areas prohibit with intensive air activity, passenger air trafficking. So we have been blamed many times that we allegedly violated the Open Skies Treaty and thus became a bad excuse for the United States to pull back from the treaty in question. But actually it was the United States who violated this treaty and didn't want to stay within its political and military framework. For example, just the Russian Foreign Ministry mentioned several violations of the Open Skies Treaty by the United States, and amongst them the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia mentioned that actually the United States introduced a de facto ban on observation flights over some parts of the US territory by refusing to allow rest and refueling stops for Russian aircraft, inspection aircraft called Antonov 30B Bravo. So the US side restricted Russia's ability to observe the Aleutian Islands and reduced the number of flights over Alaska and over the Hawaiian Islands. Well, without any explanations, but we understand what kind of explanations would have been if they are revealed. Simply, the American side do not want our inspection aircraft to fly over ballistic missile defense, or missile defense, better to say, of the United States in this particular area. There was also the United States side also introduced altitude limits for observation aircraft in violation of the Open Skies Treaty. Made several cases of delays in issuing visas to the design personnel for this Open Skies aircraft, and incited Georgia, not the state of Georgia in the United States, but the Republic of Georgia, former Soviet republic, the Republic of Georgia, incited Georgia to violate the treaty on open skies. So the Georgians, the Tbilisi, blocked inspection aircraft to make flights over Georgian territory. So there are too many cases, and we suggested that if the United States is no longer party to this treaty, on the Open Skies Treaty, from November 22nd, it means that they will not be able to send their own inspection open skies aircraft to fly over the Russian territory. But other NATO participants in this agreement can send their inspection aircraft to fly over Russian territory. But it's an open secret that NATO allies will immediately submit all data they will collect while flying over the Russian territory. We are just sending our message very clearly to NATO participants in the Open Skies Treaty. you should not, if you fly over Russian territory, you should not share your intelligence information with the United States, because so long as they are, if it is not a party of this OST. So there is still an unresolved issue. If, for example, Russia will stay within OST and continue its flights over European participants, NATO European participants in this treaty, so can we fly over American bases located in Europe? Yes, we can, because there are no restrictions, as I said earlier. But all NATO member states in this particular treaty, they still have not responded to our quite obvious and quite logical idea to continue our flight over American military installations, military bases scattered around many European NATO member states. So, if such practice from the participants of the OST from NATO alliance continues, so Russia will have a justifiable right also to withdraw from the Open Skies Treaty in the future. But we are still waiting for the reaction. Yeah. But we cannot wait indefinitely. Regis?
Yeah, no, of course not. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that the NATO countries, which are controlled directly by the United States, would not share that information. So, I mean, that's just a blatant hypocrisy. I mean, it's incredible that they could do that. But the question I have to you is it really significant that this Open Skies Treaty now, I mean, it really doesn't matter anymore with all of these spy satellites that Russia has, America has, China, European countries that are flying constantly over each other's territories, hundreds or thousands of miles up in space.
Yeah.
They see everything better than a plane can. So what's the point?
Yes, they can see, but with a very important exception. All satellites that are flying around the globe, it doesn't matter to whom country they belong to, they cannot see the developments on the ground if there is a dense clouds surrounding the Earth. But open skies inspection aircraft can see, because they can fly lower from this dense layer of natural clouds. And that's why even in rainy weather, etc. That's why you see this kind of treaty has been invented and signed. It was not the Soviet initiative, as I said earlier. It was the initiative of the United States and major Western allies of Washington. But the treaty was a kind of confidence-building measure from the air, and in a couple with the national means of technical verification in space, I mean aerial surveillance by using open skies inspection aircraft was a very important factor. But now this factor may vanish in the haze. Regis?
Wow. That's not all. That's happened just this week. Now, the United States has decided, and by the way, Joe Biden now is receiving all of these top secret security information.
Yes.
So he knows about it.
During transition period. Yes. During transition period, yeah.
He knows about it. But the United States announced that they already have nuclear missiles in NATO countries, but they were going to deploy more nukes into NATO countries including low-yield nukes.
Yeah.
And they talk about limited nuclear war, which is insanity. This has got to be probably, in my opinion, probably the most serious threat to Russian security and integrity is to have these so-called nuclear missiles, but now low-yield missiles all around Russia's borders. What can Russia's reaction be to that?